And y'all ready for this?
Hey guys, it's Darren with another episode of Coffee Time at the Resurrection, and today I am joined here with Kristina. So as always, I have a series of questions to ask her, so that way you guys can get to know our team a little bit better, just so that way you guys know my team just like you guys know me. As always, we've got Forbidden Flavors Coffee, which is in the showroom, always fresh brewed, fresh perked, so pop in anytime and see us. So, Kristina, what's your connection to the business?
Well, I know that I appear smaller than this one, but I am actually the older sibling to this one, and I am also Matt's wife.
Yeah, so she's never had good taste in mint. Just kidding. Yeah, so she is my older, smaller sister. And then actually when I started the business, Kristina kind of came in, lent the hand when she could. To help me keep up with everything that was going on, because there was a lot going on when I first started, right?
Yeah.
So, so in saying that, what did you do when you helped out here?
I did a lot of the detailing and just kind of worked the front desk and stuff, but mostly detailing. And that was when you had your first shop on 18th, and then I kind of helped out a little bit when you went to the second shop as well.
Right, because we were still in the transition. We hadn't hired Lainey yet. And then Sean was, she still had her full-time job. So
I think I actually
part-time.
helped train Sean.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we first started, there was you and Cheryl helping out.
Yes. We were the dream team.
So basically, Cheryl would come in from like 9 o'clock till 11, and then you would come in basically from like 1 to 3, and then I'd kind of do everything in between, I guess.
Yeah.
So, so I asked Lainey this, and everybody kind of has this exact same thing, and I tell all detailers this, but do you remember your like breaking point vehicle?
Oh,
I remember it. So.
There was a few. You mean the one that I cried? I called you when I was crying. Yeah, there's been a few. I mean, I am a mom as well, so I definitely know that mom vehicles are usually the ones that get the dirtiest. But I think the one that had me in tears was when we had the one at the first shop, and it was the one with hay in the back. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that one I definitely remember having a few tears over it. But
yeah, that was a van, wasn't it?
It was an SUV.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not the one I remember, but
which one do you remember then?
the van where I like opened up the door and the vacuum was still running, and you're just like laying on the floor. You're like,
Yeah,
I don't want to do this anymore.
I'm a mom too, so I know that vehicles get very dirty. But
that one had like crayons in the very back, and then they like colored all over the windows.
It had a lot of leftover stains of smoothies and all those fun things.
Like leftover.
And it was like,
right?
you'd open each crevice and you'd be like, oh, you thought you were shocked, and then you'd open something else and you were like, oh no. Now so that was pretty bad. But yeah, those were a couple. But
we got a lot of those at the first shop, I think, just because our price point was kind of low. And it was really affordable, and then of course there wasn't really a shop doing what we did, so it was like an opportunity for a lot of those the soccer vehicles to bring in after their kids had a few years of really messing up with the vehicle and stuff like that.
You mean a few years or just a week? Because a week in my vehicle looks like a couple years.
Yeah, that's fair.
They get pretty bad.
Yeah, but I mean, we had some that were like, like a 2008 Dodge Caravan that like in 2015 was the first time it was ever detailed.
Yeah.
I mean, we still see them, but we've seen a lot more then, because it was, it was priced a little bit different, and we were trying to make a name for ourselves, and we were trying to like build it. And at the time it was like my only income. So it was like a lot of like, I need to make payments. Like I need to make bills and stuff, and I need to pay for the shop and stuff. So it was just a drive-in. Which was huge. Like we did a lot of cool vehicles too. Like we did a lot of like really hard stuff where people are like, I can't believe it came that clean. And it was
and I think like for any of the breaking point vehicles, it's definitely nice to see the before and afters. I feel like you go into it and you're like, I cannot believe I have to do this. But then when you walk out of it, you're like, wow, I did that, and it looks like amazing when you, so even the breaking point vehicles have their place in this because, you know, you get some pretty good outcomes out of them. And
like, that's when I introduced like before and after pictures. Like, it didn't matter how well it was going to turn out. It was a matter of take the pictures before so we can see what they look like when we're done. And then that's also when I introduced like, okay, Chris, like, I want you to be back here for like 4:30 when the customer picks up, because like I want you to kind of see their engagement, because I got to see all the time, like, you know, the moms and dads that came in and they're like, holy man, like, I can't believe you did this and stuff. And then like I brought you in to do a couple so that way you understood the feeling that they were feeling and the reciprocation from it of like, wow, like, okay, so like what I'm doing, even though, you know, in general eyes, it's just cleaning. Yeah. That was the opportunity for you to see like, I actually am making a difference. Like, I'm changing something for people, right? Like, they're finally getting to see like, wow, I have this vehicle, and, you know, like, I don't know if it's worth keeping or not keeping. And then we would detail it.
And then they'd be like, okay,
right. Like, I'm going to keep this vehicle for a couple more years. I'm going to get some more miles out of it. Like,
exactly.
You know, it's a good vehicle, so I want to keep it, but it's just the way it looked. I was embarrassed to bring people in or whatever the case was, right? So we had lots of those. So what was your favorite part of being here when you were here?
I mean, everybody's pretty much said it, but like the team is definitely something that brings you into work. We
didn't really have much of a team. It was just the two of us.
I know, but I feel like
so you like spending time with me, I guess is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, some days. No, I think, but I think like that was a big part of coming to work. And like you were also accomplishing something that I think Lainey said that, where you accomplish something and it just makes you feel good, where you walk away and at the end of the day, you're like I said, I've done this and I've made maybe not a difference, but you've made a difference.
Well, you've made an impact in somebody's life, right? Because you've taken their investment and you've renewed it to the point where they're like, wow, I don't have to like increase this investment to its fullest purchase. I can purchase a smaller thing that, you know, re-heightens that investment. Right? So,
exactly. So
for sure, I get that.
Yeah.
So obviously you helped out a bit. Because you were like, at the time you were stay-at-home mom. You had two young boys, and Matt
and it would just work with my hours that I could come and do it when they were either at daycare or
school or whatever the case, right? So now you're back to work, and so what are you doing now?
I am a kind of a maintenance attendant at a housing complex. So I basically do apartments the same way that I did. So clearly I love the job of making things new again. So I kind of clean and paint and just go in and get apartments ready for when new tenants move in. So
and then once again working with family.
With family.
Our mom and stepdad are also working there, right? So
I like my family.
Apparently you can't get enough.
As much as they drive me crazy some days, you know, it's good.
So obviously, in 2018, when I decided I was going to start this, I got a good friend that was a huge push for me. Which obviously I'm forever grateful for him. But I was working at another job, went to go see the doctor, and then it turned out that like a lot of my organs and stuff were like shutting down, and like I was obviously not on a good push to a future life and stuff like that. So I was put on 2 weeks disability or 2 weeks medical leave from my work. And then I decided not to go back because my health at the time was more important. And then I kind of just messaged you and I said, like, quit my job. I'm starting up a business. Like, what did you think when I was like, I'm starting up a business? Like, this is it. I'm going to do this.
To be honest, I mean, you've always worked since you were 14. So, I mean, you've had the drive, and anybody that knows you knows that you kind of like to do your own thing and stuff. You don't really like to work under other people. So, I mean, in terms of that, I kind of, I wasn't overly shocked about it, to be completely honest, because you've always kind of, like I said, you've worked really hard since you were young, and you've always had that push and motivation to do things. So, I mean, who better to start a business, to be completely honest.
So you weren't, like, were you nervous, worried? Were you like, oh?
Not really, because like I said, I think if anybody could do it, it was you.
Yeah, so that's fair. I appreciate that.
You also have connections. You also have a lot of connections too in Brandon. So I mean, like that also helps too. So I mean, if you know, that just helps. Yeah.
So obviously that was a huge thing, and it didn't really affect you much because obviously you were just like a leaning ear and a helpful hand when I needed it. But what did you think when Matt came home and he said, I was just laid off from my job, I'm going to finish school, and then I'm going to go be a window tinter with your brother? Like, what did you think then?
Again, to be honest, it was good. It was a good idea. Matt's kind of a jack of all trades. So like, I mean, he can fit in pretty much anywhere he goes.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I mean, it wasn't really shocking to me that he'd be able to take it on, and he does all of his own vehicles and, you know, builds them from scratch and stuff. So, I mean, I think he would have, just been a good asset for you. So, I mean.
And he has been. I mean, he's a jack of all trades, master of none, but he's really mastered this part of the business. And he's been a huge attribute for me because, like I said, in mine and Matt's coffee time, like, we do everything together. So, like, it's awesome because I don't just have my brother-in-law working with me, but I have one of my best friends. So like when I have a hard day, like I know I can talk to Matt about it, and we can bounce ideas off each other, whatever the case. So I mean, that's been huge help. Yeah, right?
Exactly.
So you weren't nervous? Like you weren't like, oh boy, we have bills to pay, we have the boys to think about. Like you were just like, we'll figure it out.
A little bit, but also I was more nervous about how it would change yours and Matt's relationship in the beginning, just because, you know, working together, and we also, you know, I think you said that in your last video, but we live behind each other. So just being around each other all the time was a little leery, but I mean, I think it's made you guys stronger, actually. If anything, it's made you guys like closer as friends and partners and everything like that. So I think it worked out for the best, and it wasn't a negative thing at all. So it's all been good.
Yeah. And like, I know when I was mentioning to people, like, I'm going to bring Matt on and blah, 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 people are like, oh, don't get involved with family. Don't bring your family in because that creates chaos and headaches and whatever. But like, I mean, when I started, it was literally a push for me to be like, hey, like I need to better like my own life, my own health, my own family. But then on top of that, like it was an opportunity for me to try and grow and progress as like an entire family. So that's why I had, you know, Cheryl working for me. Then I brought you on part-time, like to help out. And then eventually, you know, like I brought Sean in part-time to help while she had another full-time job, and then Matt, and then Sean was able to get rid of her full-time income to come with us full-time. Right. So it's always been something that anyone that has come to work here, like how can we build up everybody's like families, right? To like better themselves and like be able to produce maximum maybe not necessarily income, but education and like how to like better their family lifestyle and stuff like that, right?
Exactly. So
I think that's been a huge thing, and like I think that's, I don't know, Matt and I seem to be like,
you guys, like I said, it was a little leery at the beginning because, you know, if business or, you know, just like it's not business, it's not personal, it's business, if any of that kind of interfered with anything. But I think overall you guys have just been a team. Like you guys have literally just been a team.
Yeah. So. And like, I don't know, Matt kind of helped me too, because he is very much like, you know, my time is my time. And for me, I dive in 110%. I'll work, you know, I've gone to work on a Thursday and not gone home till Tuesday because that's what needed to happen. And I've always been that hard worker and solid into like, I'll just bring on everything possible until I literally can't bring it on anymore. But then like, that's like my time is my time. So, you know, he would pump through what he could in his 8-hour day or 9-hour day. And then like, he's like, hey, like it's time to shut down and go home. Right? And, like, I mean, I still don't do that, but at least I know that I can't like expect my staff to do it, which was a huge push for me because like, I think if it wasn't for Matt just doing that, then I would be like, all my staff needs to be here all the time, right? And like, I mean, I love this place.
What do you mean you have family and friends? Stay at work. Stay at work.
Work's more important. Come on now.
Let's get this out. Let's go.
So what or if any fear did you have? I guess we talked about that, eh?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we talked about fears with Matt. So what was your proudest like moment where you were like, wow, these assholes did it. Like these assholes finally did something.
I've had a lot. I think when we were not at the very first shop, but the second shop, you had I think Business After 5 with Brandon Chamber.
Yeah.
And I think that was just fun, just standing in the background, just witnessing like it was a pack shop, and they were just like there to see what you guys did. And I think the shocking part was when you took, was it on your vehicle or whose vehicle you took, you were doing a demonstration and you were scratching into the paint, and everybody was just like, oh, like amazed and in awe. And I think that was just kind of like a cool thing of, you know, you see product coming in and out, but I think like for people to actually witness and get to like look and see what the product actually does for their vehicles was just kind of like, it was a really cool thing to like get to witness, I guess. But
yeah, and that was a different event too, because it was something out of the normal from like what Brandon Chamber offered. And I mean, we've seen that, right? Like, I mean, we had, you know, Leland from Ion Coating, like he kind of got into it with the car trend with Brandon Chamber to a degree. Spencer Day, same thing. And like, those are two people that I just, you know, like I really appreciate what they've done, because like they were very young when they started and they went to the Brandon Chamber, and they, you know, they did everything that like when I was younger thinking about starting a business, it was everything that like I wanted to do. Yeah. So in saying that, like we did something like we were like, come to our shop and see where we detail, and then come figure out what we do. And then like Ronnie from Trident Films brought lights, he brought music, it was a cool event. Like it was very cool, and I think it was something untraditional from the Brandon Chamber, where they're usually in like some sort of office setting. Yeah. And then for like an opportunity for them, they weren't car people, but they got to see like what we were talking about, what we meant. Like they got to see it in real life. And we like still have like a lot of Brandon Chamber people that come here and they're like, remember you did that, you know, like coffee after 5? Like I still remember doing that. And like, that's why cool. I'm here. Because people like you took I think it was a brush, and you showed what, brush. And it was on PPF at the time. Yeah. You started scratching, and everybody was like, oh my goodness, like what are you doing? What are we getting into? And the whole crowd just like swarmed into the vehicle, and they were just like, it was really cool. I think there's been a lot of like other moments too, like just seeing, you know, Cars and Coffee be up here, or just like, you know, when you went from shop to shop, those are also moments that are just like pretty big and stuff. Cause you know, it's like you started out of a box and you've just continuously grown and grown and grown. And you know, it's just really cool. Yeah. I mean, each shop you could take like a previous shop and like put it inside the other one, like those little, that first shop. I mean, I won't share any secrets, but it was tight. Yeah. it was hard getting vehicles, and you know, that's what I tell the detailers now. Like my entire shop was the size of our detail bay. You have no idea what kind of space you have. Enjoy it. It was the size of the detail shop now, like for the entire thing, right? So that was front entrance, everything, product sales, that was the benches, coatings, paint correction, full details. Like we often washed outside, right? Like there was a few times where we were like, is this vehicle gonna fit in here? Like, okay, how do we and we actually didn't even have like an active drain. We had like a pit in the floor that was all concreted. It would basically fill up with water. We'd have to put like a pump inside and then like pump the water out, right? So it was a lot. Yeah, it was a huge learning curve. And but again, that's just like another proud moment of just seeing how far you've come, and now you're here. And I mean, I haven't been in the shop too much to work, but I get lost in the because you guys have upgraded so much too. So coming in, I'm like, oh, I think I know what I'm doing, and then you're like, no, you guys have done new stuff, and like you guys are doing using different products, and doing all that kind of thing. So definitely growth for sure. Yeah. So if this continues to be like a sustainable business, and I say if, because I'm very hopeful that will be, but I mean, the market can change at any time, and there's different aspects that can happen, right? So, but if this was to sustain for the next, say, like 10 years, right? So Sawyer's how old now? 11? He's 11, yeah. So well, he'll be 11. He'll be 11 in February, right? He was just saying, he was like, oh, do you remember when Uncle Darren said I could start working for him when I'm 13? And he's like, that's only 2 years away. Yeah, right. So say he was like 18, graduating high school, and Jackson's starting to come up. And I mean, I have to think about this every day, because like my oldest, Leah, is going to, like, she's 14. She's gonna be, 14. Which is crazy. This month as well, I mean, she's already kind of worked for you. So yeah. So what would you do if Sawyer was like graduating and he was like, you know what, I don't want to go to post-secondary school. I wanted to go work with Dad and Uncle Darren. Like, what would you say? 100%. I mean, like, he's already, I mean, I remember Sawyer when he was little, he's already been
we dragged him to every car show with us. So he's already been in the car world. So I mean, like for him to branch out into this, this job would be easy for him. Also, I mean, he idolizes you and he idolizes his dad. So I mean, like it would just be easy to come and work for you guys. And like I said, he's already been talking about, Uncle Darren said in like 2 years or when I'm 13, I can come and, you know, just even clean the shop. So I mean, you don't even have to wait until he's 18 to know if he's going to come work for you because he's already got a job lined up. So,
and like I said, this was a huge thing. I actually like mentioned this on like the Q&U podcast, but like I talk to Aaliyah about it all the time. I'm like, you know, college and university are super, super important, but there is certain people, and I was one of those people that like, I didn't fall into that narrative. I fell into the learn by doing and do to learn. Right.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
not that I necessarily like promote people to do it, but like, I mean, there are certain people that are never going to fall into that groove of like continuing their education. So I think that's always super important for people to think about. And that's why I asked that question, because like, some people might have a hard time with understanding that like, okay, well, you're going to go work there, but like, what are you going to do after? Right. And like, I think that's super important for people to start thinking about, like, maybe my kid doesn't want to go to school. Maybe they want to own a business. They want to be an entrepreneur. They're cool with just, you know, applying window tint, applying PPF, like working on cool shit every day. And like, I think that's just
and like I say, going back to like that first question that you asked, I mean, you've been working since you were like 13, 14 even, and just like you've always had that drive to want to work. And I mean, if we're bringing up education, like you said, you didn't really get a, you know, college degree or anything like that, but look at what you've accomplished without it. So I mean, I think there's always room for everything.
When I was like 11. And
I'm just like, that's true.
Like,
but I'm just saying, like a business corporate, you know, kind of like gas stations and stuff like that. But I think, there's always room for everybody, whether you go to schooling for it or not. There's always like an avenue and there's always everything. So
for sure. So when you sit back and reflect on the last 5 years since Resurrection started, what's one thing? Just one thing, first thing that comes to mind. You're just like, wow.
Just how proud I am of you, to be completely honest. Like, I mean, I think, like I said, you've come a long way, and you built something out of essentially nothing, like a cardboard box. So, I mean, I think I could put like down on paper a bunch of things, but if you're asking me one thing, it's just, then I'm super proud of you.
Which is fair. I mean, we had
I did it. I don't know why I just gave you thumbs up.
we didn't have like a super easy life.
No.
I mean, yours was probably easier than mine because you were the golden child, but I mean, we were raised by a single mom who worked all the time because she had to support us. And I mean, we're very
that just made us who we are.
Like,
absolutely.
Made me a very strong person. So we got through it, and like anything, you get through what you get through, and you know, you don't.
It just makes you more resilient. It makes you just who you are when you face struggles. And
I mean, in all that, I mean, we had great people in our corner with our grandparents and stuff.
Always.
So,
yeah,
that's awesome. And of course, who better to know than you what we've been through, right? And what I've been through, and the late nights and dark days, and like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Like, how is this going to work? Like, you know, doing like going into family things, like, you know, like dealing with custody stuff, and like adding more kids to the family and building a family, and then having like your boys to think about, and Jordan's kids to think about, like her family to think about, and Zach to think about, and Lainey to think about, and Sean to think about. You know, it's just like everything's adding up all the time, right? So who better to know than like you and Cheryl?
Yeah,
because like I probably talk to you guys about that stuff the most, right? So so I really like this question. I had to put this question in there. So how often do you find yourself talking about Resurrection to random people, other people?
Quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah, a lot, actually. I think my the one thing that kind of just ticks me off, but it's also really good for everybody, your whole community, is you go onto a Facebook post and you're trying to be the first one to be like, if somebody's, hey, what, you know, where's detailing or this, and it's like, you want to be the first one, and I'm like, I'm the supporter, I'm the sister, and I'm like, there's 20 comments of Resurrection, and I'm just like, okay, I think they get it.
20th,
But we talk about it quite often. Yeah,
and like the reason why I bring that up is because like in a lot of detailing groups and stuff that I'm in, I always try to be like a mentor to a lot of these new shops starting up.
Yeah.
So we always get the question of like, what social media platform should I be in?
Yeah.
I'm like, all of them.
Yes,
like, what, all of them? I'm like, you should be on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, like wherever you can find stuff. We're on like Neighbors. We're on this. We're on that because it only takes one person to see that post.
Promoting.
And like, okay.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I'm like, I sell myself everywhere, anywhere.
Yeah.
And this is
well, you have to
like,
in a day and age of like technology. You have to be on the platforms because that's where your word of mouth is a lot now.
And then like a huge thing too that like I think a lot of people have forgot about in this day and age is like the common courtesy of being polite to other people in person and having the personal values and stuff. So like I tell people, I'm like, I sell myself everywhere. I go pick my kids up from daycare. It's like
I'm not going to make a comment on that. We'll keep it PG.
And then you know, I go to Walmart and I'll purposely like I'll look for chips and they could be like right in front of me and there'll be like a guy or you know like a husband and wife standing there and I'll scramble for the chips and then I'm like, man, I wish they would organize this better. And then they're like, yeah, for sure. I'm like, you know, owning a busy detail shop, like I'm grocery shopping at 9 o'clock at night here, like you know, I need to just get in and get out because I have this detail shop. And then they're like, oh, what detail shop? And I'm like, oh, I own Resurrection. And they're like, oh, cool. You know,
I was just saying to Maddie the other day, I was like, our vehicle, even driving around, we have the Resurrection decals on the side. And I'm like driving and I'm like, why are people always staring? Like, why are they always looking at this vehicle? I'm like, we drive a nice vehicle. And like, it's definitely, you know, promotional and, you know, so even driving around, I'm advertising for you guys.
When it's like, sell yourself everywhere. So like, I'm also in like a network group and that kind of stuff, but it's like, you never know who's in your corner that's silently selling for you and not asking for anything in return. And that's why I asked you that question of like, how often do you find yourself talking about the business to other people? Yeah. Because there's always those people that are in your corner that will sit and sell for you all the time and like never ask you for anything. Right. Yeah. And like, I think that's important to like, as somebody that's trying to start up a detail business and that kind of stuff, like,
you need people that are going to
make sure that you're finding the right people that are going to help you sell and make sure that you work on your elevator pitch, which is like 60 seconds or less of like, this is what my business does. And like reiterate it to them because like those people will go out and they'll say the same thing to other people without even thinking about it. Right.
Oh yeah. So, well, I mean, nothing sells better than, you know, people talking about it. And, you know, it's always in the back of your head of like always having it there. And, you know, so,
you know, people jump in a vehicle and they're like, it's kind of dirty in here. You should take it up to Resurrection.
Oh, except for when I, you know, had somebody knock on my window and asked about the decal and they, you know, I mean, they poked their head in and they're like, oh, you work for, and I was like, yeah, here's my business card. But, again, I'm a parent. Don't judge my vehicle. I mean, I'm like promoting it, but don't judge my vehicle in this moment, please. But yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's just a matter of having those proper people
100%
in command to be like, oh, by the way, like, you know, for your instance, like my husband and my brother have this business and like whatever. So, or you see like a nice vehicle, like roll up to the school and you're like, man, that's really nice. Like, oh, is that a new vehicle? And they're like, yeah. They're like, oh, you should go see these guys, right?
Well, because I actually had a friend who bought, I'm not a car person, so I don't know vehicles, but they bought an older vehicle and it was a little bit faded to like a lighter pink and and I was like, I know somebody that can get this looking. They're like, no, it's pretty old. There's no way. And I'm like, I know a person. I know what this vehicle can look like. So, you know,
So in saying all that and like being like a solid salesperson for us without even being a salesperson, what would be if you were talking to somebody and they're like, okay, so, you know, my brother started this business. My husband's going to work for them. They were sitting in the exact same situation. What would be like your number one tip for them? Like, what would you say is like something important?
Just do it. Just try it. I mean, again, you have nothing. I mean, you can always fail. There's always a chance of that. But like at the end of the day, why not just try it? Right? Just put yourself out there and see where it goes. You never know if you have the right connections, if you have the right people in your corner. I mean, you can build anything up, but I guess that would be I don't know. Is that actually answering your question or not really? Ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you miss 100% of the chances you don't take.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Sometimes working with family is harder, but again, if you just have like a if you just know that it's not personal, it's business. I mean, I feel like that's like a pretty common catchphrase, but it's true. It's not personal, it's business. So I mean, anything that happens when you're working together is, you know, you don't take it home with you and stuff like that. So
like I mean, Matt and I can sit here and have a disagreement and whatever, and often,
and then call each other up that evening. Hey, you want to come over for barbecue?
Well, when we'll sit across the fence from each other, like home improvement, you know, have a coffee and or having a drink and
who's the one that's
barbecue, you know, and Matt would be Wilson because he's like
100% he's Wilson. We also have the fence for it, so he'd be like
So I mean, we can separate that, and then I mean, we might open up the conversation in like more of a private setting, as if we didn't work with each other. So that way, it's like, okay, let's look at each other's opinions and values and stuff. And I think that's always key. And like I tell everybody when they start here, like the second you walk through that door, I want you to act like you own this place, because I want you to make proper and informed decisions for yourself and for everybody else that works here. And that's kind of what I tell Matt. So we always try to like bounce ideas and look at each other's sides and stuff, you know.
But I feel like if you trust your team and who you're working with, and that could also go back to if you're working with family, who do you trust more than family, right? So, I mean, if you trust who you're working with and you can bounce ideas off them, or they always feel comfortable enough to feel like, they own a part of the business, they're going to work harder for you, as opposed to if you're just, you know, I guess if you have people that come in and they just act like, oh, this is just my job, I'm just going to walk in and then I'm going to leave. But if you have people that come in and they're like, I really value and I feel like I fit in, and I'm, you know, they're going to work harder for you.
For sure. And I think like Matt takes that. I mean, I don't know if he works harder for me, but he definitely puts some paces on the tile floor.
That's questionable.
But I mean, anytime I ever need anything, or if I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about introducing this product, like I know Matt will sit and he'll like ponder on it.
Oh, 100%. Or he'll Google it and Google it.
And he'll spend time on it. So that way I don't necessarily have to, but he will. And like, I know when it comes down to crunch time, and I'm like, this stuff has to get done. Like we have to do this. We have to bring this in. Like it's go time. Like I know I can rely on him all the time. I can. I think our team's pretty solid. I can do that with everybody.
You have a solid team. You just have a solid team in general.
And like that's a huge attribute for that. And
even not working here as of right now, just walking in, you always feel at home.
You feel it, right?
Oh, 100%.
There's nothing worse than like walking into a chain.
I never walk in and feel like, oh, okay, tension. What happens? No, it's like you walk in and chances are you're either the butt of the joke or you're watching your back because somebody's going to scare you.
One or the other, for sure.
But overall,
awesome. I think that's all the questions I had. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely,
like I said, it's super important. Like, there's like a team that physically works here, but then there's a team behind the team. And I think Matt and I are like, obviously it's important for people to get behind the driving factor of everything here, right? So,
and I mean, even if I don't work here as right now, I mean, it's not hard to call me up and say, hey, like I
jump in, you know, and we've done that.
Or just, you know, being the support, like the support from behind the scenes, like you just said. So,
Or there's times where I'm like, we've got this boat and you need to come in and like help us with it.
Boats are fun.
Help and whatever, right? So, but it's always like that driving force, like behind the team that's physically working, there's a team behind them that is like pushing them to do stuff. And like, I think you're a huge push for Matt to be like, hey, you know, like just keep going. I know my brother's a dickhead, but just deal with it, or whatever the case. But, and who would know that better than you, I guess. But, there's just always a team behind the team, and you got to support the team, the background team, just as much as you support the front team, right? So, it's awesome. I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in and enjoying some forbidden flavors.
Forbidden flavors.
Awesome. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.